how it becomes abusive, it's usually when they get embarrassed about something and when they feel like you embarrassed them. And that could be rejection, that could be standing them up, but it's usually something that embarrasses them. So in her head, me getting her calls and sitting next to a guy that I kissed equaled me doing her dirty in front of everyone, and she was embarrassed. So what she does, she grabs my phone from the desk, runs out in the hallway, we all follow, and we just see her slamming my phone on the ground, breaking it all the way, like slamming it multiple times, stepping on it. There's people in the hallway drinking, getting ready for parties. Everyone is like, what the hell is going on?
Hello and welcome to No Boundaries, the podcast, Mother and Daughter edition. This is a podcast in which we, a mother and daughter duo, have honest conversations, discuss controversial topics while also exploring our mother and daughter bonds. And I'm the mother and my name is Anusha.
And I'm the daughter and my name is Lulu.
Today we're going to talk about a difficult subject, so trigger warning. We're going to speak about abusive relationships and in particularly the lead up to it. It's called kind of like coercive control, right? When something adds up to, a horrible situation, abusive relationships. And I want to talk about, especially for people who are maybe experiencing something like that, how it kind of starts, and also for people around it, because, sometimes as a mother, you don't really know what's going on, what to do, what are the signs, and what can be done. I want to discuss this topic first and foremost because, as Lulu has spoken about it, not to speak for you, but you've been in a situation, and it took a long time before you told us, you're her parents, and before we found out. So that's why I think it's important. But also now in the news, we all know that the Diddy trial is going on right now. Everything we say about the trial and about Cassie Ventura, the main witness right now, is alleged. It's our opinion. It's not based on fact. We are not experts. We speak from our own experience and from, for what we think, might be helpful. Take from it what you want. But everything we say about, of course, the trial and about the whole situation with Cassie and Diddy is alleged. Okay? All right. So that was the disclaimer. The shout out and shame have to do with that for me because I want to give an incredible shout out to Cassie Ventura. What an amazing, strong, young, incredible woman who now at almost 9 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant, is testifying against her alleged abuser who she hasn't seen in years. And she's doing something so incredibly important for so many women because she's so open and honest also about her love for him, the relationship, and also her sexual attraction and her sexual experiences with him. I think that is revolutionary what she's doing. I think, there are going to be whole studies about this woman, about her bravery. So I want to give her this incredible shout out for being, a mother now in the stands doing this. So I bow down to this queen. I want to give a shame to everybody who's talking about money grab. I want to give a shame to everybody who says, yeah, she knows what she was getting into and, she could have left and all that crap. I really, really want to shame these people. If this is out of ignorance, okay, still a shame. If you really think, if you really believe that somebody makes a conscious decision to go through this, please look at yourself. That's my shame. That's what I want to say about it. Our shout out and shame we do every week where we kind of like discuss something that we like and that we not like. And this is what I really like and not like this week. Okay. Without further ado, we're going to delve into this topic. As you know, people who have listened to our show before know that Lulu, my daughter, has experienced an abusive relationship. And I want to talk about, if we compare it to Cassie, that start, how it evolves. Because if you look at Cassie Ventura, she was 19 when she met P. Diddy. He was almost 20 years older. It was like she was 19, he was 37, I believe. And he was in complete control of her life. She signed a 10 album record deal with him. So she was completely dependent on him. He had pulled all the strings on her career, financially, everything, what kind of album she would make, who she would work with. So she was already completely in his circle, plus he was like a world famous, multimillionaire record mogul. And he says, allegedly he kissed her the first time on her 21st birthday. So it was a slow process into that happening. And then
she confirmed that?
She has confirmed that on the stand. And then in that first year of their relationship between 21 and 22, he, kind of like got her ready for very explicit, aggressive sexual innuendos that they call freak-offs. And, it didn't happen right away, and he didn't, but in that year of that relationship, he like massaged and they, he groomed her for that, while having complete control over her career, over her financial situation. She was, of course, away from her family. He was paying her rent. He was paying for everything. And he also started coercive controlling her by putting her down, talking about her looks, talking about her ethnicity, talking about hair, everything, and slowly but surely also using violence.
I think the most important thing to know about abusers is that they follow a very specific pattern, specific cycle, and they have very specific techniques that they'll use on anyone. It's nothing personal to the victim, and it's just a technique that they always use. And with certain people it works, certain people it doesn't, and they feel that. They know exactly who they can and cannot do that with. That's one thing. And another thing is that no matter if it's like with abusing and stalking, they often go hand in hand. And no matter if it's like a romantic connection, a friend connection, it could be any type of connection, they still follow the same pattern, because it's something that they do. So no matter your response, it's something they always stay very consistent in, which was interesting to see. Like, after I got out of my abusive relationship, which was a romantic relationship, and I was genuinely into this girl, I watched Baby Reindeer, where it is a stalker and abuser, but the victim wasn't interested in her at all. And still, how similar the patterns of the abuser were was very eye-opening for me to see, because it just shows that regardless of how you handle it, how you respond, there's no way to respond to it, because they're in their own world, in their own reality. So yeah, that's the first thing. As for how it starts, a big thing with abusers that I've noticed is that they're super charismatic. They're very charismatic, very friendly, very fun in the beginning. And these are the type of people that everyone's drawn to, always. Because they're so funny, they're so social, whatever. But a red flag with abusers is that they often don't have the same friends or partners for a long time. They switch off a lot. But in the beginning, you ignore that, even if you know that, because they're so fun to be around, and they really draw you in. Because they're so social, they're very careless. They don't care what people think of them. They don't care how they're viewed. They don't care to embarrass themselves in public, which is very refreshing to be around, especially when you're younger, because you're so insecure. You're so stuck up in wanting to be liked. So to have somebody who's just goes beyond all of that, it's really refreshing. So that's definitely a way they draw you in. Another way is that, as I mentioned, they follow specific techniques, and the thing with that is that they test it out. They slowly test the waters and go further and further and see what can it get away with. And they'll do this with really subtle things. It could be that they plan to hang out with you at 1 o'clock, but then they actually randomly say, actually, I'm going to come now. And then you'll be like, oh, fine, you can come earlier. But there's some people who are very firm with little things. And usually abusers don't go further with those type of people that are firm with small things like that. They tend to go for more people that are more laid back, more relaxed, more open-minded, more nice and givers and people pleasers. They tend to go for people like that because they know they can take more advantage of those people. So yeah, they test the limits with little things and see how much they can get away with. And based on that, they kind of decide on if they will decide to make you their new obsession, basically. Yeah. So that's kind of how they reel you in.
So these are the two things. Okay, so red flag, you said, is if somebody is with the short friendships, right? Somebody has new friends, new relationships, quickly. And another red flag, your borders, but even somebody goes over your borders, even with small things, right? So those are the two main red flags.
Over your boundaries.
Over your boundaries, yes, exactly. What is usually then, if you talk about coercive control, because somebody doesn't just become violent, right?
No.
Or can you say something
Yeah.
about that build up and what are also some red flags or examples?
Yeah, I think the thing is that, as I said, these people are very charismatic. So when they're great, and they're very fun to be around, very refreshing, and you get along with them so well, to the point where, yeah, you'll hear certain red flags. Like, for example, my abusive ex, when I met her, she had transferred from another school that was D2 in basketball. Now she's in the D3 basketball, so she went down a level in basketball, which is very uncommon. And she claimed it was because she wanted to have better education. But yeah, her other team was very good. So there's little things like that that were already red flags. And she didn't speak to anybody from her old school anymore, stuff like that. But you kind of ignore those because these people are so fun. And you kind of like can't even imagine like that people dislike them, honestly. And it's one of those things where actions speak louder than words. So if you're experiencing how great they are, then it doesn't mean anything if other people might say, oh, they're actually this, they're that. So yeah, and they're also very good in making themselves look like the victim. And the funny thing is that they're not even trying to look like the victim. They genuinely believe they're the victim. They're the one getting bullied. Nobody wants to be their friend. They're always the one having to make new friends. Nobody wants to be around them. Like, they genuinely believe they're a victim. So yeah, you really feel bad for these people. And I think, yeah, it's very great in the beginning. You have so much fun and you feel bad for them. That's always a big thing. They always do things in the beginning that make you feel bad for them. And if you help them out, that's all they need to realize, okay, this is the one kind of thing.
Yeah.
It happened to Baby Reindeer. He felt bad for this girl who was alone at the bar. And it happened with me as well. Like, she had a difficult situation, a legal situation in the past. I felt bad for her because it had to do with racism and she grew up in a white town. Later on, it wasn't that. But in the moment, I felt bad and I wanted to help this girl and I felt she was misunderstood.
Yeah.
And it always starts with you want to help these people. And yeah, that's like a big thing as well, where if you are a big giver or a people pleaser, they like you, more likely, and you like them, because if you're a people pleaser, you feel good about yourself when you're able to help others or please others. So it's like two magnets connecting very intensely because you're both fulfilling each other's desires or needs or whatever.
And then the step to more control, coercive control, like saying nasty, I heard it's like a lot of putting someone up on a pedestal, but also putting someone down sort of at the same time, and then making someone insecure.
It starts with definitely a lot of jokes. It starts with a lot of jokes where they start saying little inappropriate things or maybe mean things or things about your friends, but then they laugh it off because these people are very funny to the point where you don't even know when they're serious, when they're not serious, and it gets in a category where you know, like, oh, this is just how they are. They say things, they say out-of-pocket stuff, they say really crazy things without thinking, they're a little all over the place. So you kind of ignore it because they're just one of those people that just talk a lot and they say a lot of like random stuff. So you don't take it as serious. That's definitely one way where it starts with jokes and then it starts to become more serious. And I think how it becomes abusive, it's usually when they get embarrassed about something and when they feel like you embarrass them. And that could be rejection, that could be standing them up, but it's usually something that embarrasses them. And yeah, that's a big thing as well with abuse. Like, yeah, it happens like behind closed doors, inside, like, but it happens almost everyone I know that's been in an abusive relationship, it happens in public too, because these people generally cannot control themselves. You can't treat this like, oh, they're just a little aggressive. No, because it's so bad that it happens in public, it happens in front of people, it happens in front of anyone, because these people generally can't help it. Like abusers, they can't control it. If they get triggered, they go all out and they don't think of the consequences of their actions. They just act on it. And yeah, I think it's often when they get embarrassed. Like for me, the first week, it was very good and happy and nice, but she was very obsessed with me from the beginning. I did realize that, but I kind of was flattered. I was like, oh, like she already likes me so much and we just met. This is only 1 week in. And I was kind of flattered, and yeah, she would be jealous, but at the same time we were both doing our own thing still too, because we weren't exclusive yet. So I thought it was just a little toxic game, a little here and there. And then the first time where it got abusive, there was alcohol involved. She had drank with her team before, and she was gonna come meet me after, and I was hanging out with my friends pre-gaming for a night out. And then she had called and texted me a bunch of times, but I didn't know because I was sitting on the bed with my friends and my phone was charging on the desk, so I didn't see her calls or her phone. So then she's already pissed off because, oh, you're out with friends drinking and you're not responding to me. So then she's already like freaking out. So then she shows up to my dorm building because she knew that's where we were gonna pregame.
Without being invited, or was she supposed to come? So that was also, she just decided to come, or was...
Basically, she was supposed to be with her team. I was supposed to be with my friends, and we were gonna, when she was done, we would plan to meet. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily that she wasn't invited, but it was also not that she was invited. It was weird. And we're all hanging out in a room, and out of nowhere, we hear like loud knocks on the door, like banging, and we think it's like campus security or something. We're like, who's that? And one of my friends goes in the people to look, and they're like, oh, it's, I almost said her name. Let's give her a fake name.
Yeah. Julie?
Julie. Oh, it's Julie. And we're all like, oh, yeah, open the door, because we're cool with Julie. I'm definitely cool with Julie. We don't think there's anything weird. She opens the door. She looks in the room for me. And for context purposes, I was sitting next to a guy that I had gotten with, that I had kissed once, and she knew that. So she was already jealous of this guy. But I had reassured her after me and her became more serious that I wasn't going to see him anymore. And basically, and I had only kissed him once. It's not like I was like actively seeing him. And I was sitting next to him on the bed because me and him were also genuinely friends. And there was a whole group of us. But all she saw was she looked at me and him and back at me. That's all she was looking at, was me sitting next to him in the bed and ignoring her calls. So in her head, me ignoring her calls and sitting next to a guy that I kissed equaled me doing her dirty in front of everyone, and she was embarrassed. So what she does, she grabs my phone from the desk, runs out in the hallway, we all follow, and we just see her slamming my phone to the ground, breaking it all the way, like slamming it multiple times, stepping on it. There's people in the hallway drinking, getting ready for parties. Everyone is like, what the hell is going on? That's where it started. So, yeah. And
so not even towards you, but towards an object.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I can imagine, on one hand, I can imagine that you'd be like, yeah, you know what, we're done. But I can also imagine that you're like, oh my God, all these circumstances that make it understandable.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They pick people that are very understandable and very always there to help. So basically, when she did that, we were all like, what? And I was pissed. Like, I was so pissed. And I was screaming. I was like, bro, my phone is fucking broken. Like, I was so pissed. And this girl starts crying hysterically, Julie. And hysterically crying, she could barely breathe. So one of my friends takes her down, brings her to the staircase to calm her down. Meanwhile, the rest are like all talking to me and are like, are you okay? Blah, blah. So, and I was so pissed. And then I think like 30 minutes later, my friend comes back and says like, Julie really wants to talk to you. She wants to apologize to you. And I was so annoyed, but I was like, fine. Like, cause honestly, all I was thinking at that moment is that she better pay for my phone and get it fixed. That's really all I was thinking of. Because I was seeing this girl for a week, guys. A week, okay? I wasn't this attached yet. So I went down the stairs and then I spoke to her and she was just very apologetic and explaining that she was dealing with something really difficult with her family. And she told me what happened and she felt so bad and she got way too drunk because of it and she was acting out of control. And this is not something that usually happens. And she's very sorry that she did that and she's gonna pay for my phone, get it fixed, blah, blah, blah. So in that point, I was kind of okay because I was like, whatever. I felt bad. She was generally going through horrible stuff. She acted out on a drunk night. You know, we've all been there. Like, you can get too drunk and act not like yourself. So I kind of let it slide because she was going to pay for my phone, get it fixed. So I didn't really care. But I was definitely, like, done seeing her. Like, that was definitely a red flag, a deal breaker. I was, like, definitely not in that anymore. So then we went upstairs. My friends were waiting for me in the kitchen, in the common room. So I went up there and she came with, and yeah, I told them she apologized, fine, whatever, and that she's gonna go home soon. And then we're talking about something and she just joins in and starts joking with us. And that's when I was like, wait a minute, like you just did all this stuff and now you're just like laughing and joking with us. Like, we're not your friends. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, the audacity. So I literally made a comment about it. Like, I forgot what I said, but I definitely said something really
like,
mean
yeah.
that kind of embarrassed her. I was like, first of all, aren't you supposed to go home? Like, we don't want you to be here. I said something like that. And there I go again, because I embarrassed her in front of my friends. Everyone started laughing. That's what triggered her once again. She grabs my purse from me, and we're fighting over my purse. And then she just slaps me across the face to the ground, like really hard, like full force slaps me. And I couldn't even react. Like, I remember it didn't even hurt. It wasn't anything too crazy. But I just remember being like, she just slapped me. I remember looking at my friends, and I remember seeing their face, and I immediately ran and grabbed her away from me. And I was just like, all I could say was like, she just slapped me. Like, this girl slapped me. Like, this is a girl I was intimate with, my first girl. I was so open with her. I was so nice to her, so caring. I was helping her with her legal problems. And she just slapped me. I couldn't believe it. Like, I really couldn't believe it. And yeah, after that, I was pissed. And then one of the guys who was there talked with her, calmed her down. And that was that.
Let's take a breath, because this is a lot. And this is the first time I'm hearing this, about this moment. This is a lot. I just want to say how brave you are. I thank you so much for sharing this, because this is, I think it's so important for people to know that build up and to learn, especially for young people. Cassie Ventura was 19 when she met Diddy. You were 18, so young. We weren't there. You were far away. You were like 2.5 hours away in college. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
You didn't tell us this, right, when this happened?
No. And I told you guys that I think that my phone fell or something.
Yeah.
Or I got it. I don't know.
You said it fell. You were walking outside and it fell from like a
Higher platform.
Yeah. What?
Because surprise, guys, she never paid for my phone. She never paid to get my phone fixed. Let's just say that.
Yeah, so that was also a way of crossing your boundaries. So she was
Yeah.
flexing.
In the moment, she said anything to calm me down. But basically, after she hit me for the first time, she again started crying, panicking, this, that. My friend spoke to her, calmed her down. And then he was going to bring her back to her dorm, walk her back. But she wanted me to be there too. And so then I even ended up walking this girl home. But because she didn't want to leave and she was going through it and she just wanted to speak to me and me only, and I'm the only one who gets her. It was, yeah. And I ended up walking this girl home.
So isolating already. Mm-hmm. This was in front of all your friends when that happened.
Yeah, in front of all my friends. So I walked her home. Then I was in her dorm, brought her back to her dorm. Then she tried to make me stay, and I was trying to leave. She starts throwing items at me, locking the door, blocking the door, throwing things at me, doing anything to get me to stay, and I wanted to leave. Then she even called over another girl that she was like seeing to try and make me jealous, and I didn't care. I was like, okay, have fun. Like, I still want to leave. Then she kicked the girl out because it didn't work. Like, she was trying desperately everything to get me to stay. And yeah, all I could think of was like, I am never speaking to this girl again. Like, I was so weirded out. Eventually, she was fine with me leaving, but then she wanted to walk me back home to my dorm. She walked me to my dorm. I told my friends about it, so they picked me up at the dorm and made sure she left. And then I went and slept at one of my friends' dorms because I was just freaked out by the whole situation. And here's where it gets tricky, because if you hear all this, you would think that's where it ends.
That's the end, yeah. And
but
all your
I
friends
was
are like,
on and off with this girl for like a year after this. Like,
so speak on that, because your friends were there. They saw it, and one of your best friends who you lived with in the dorm with. I'm sure they all were like, Lulu.
No, my roommate actually didn't see this.
Okay.
She just heard about it the next day.
But your other friends, and I'm sure your friends were like, okay, Lulu, this is it. You're done. You know, we'll be here. We'll support you, whatever you want, right? So what is that mechanism? What does that, the abuser do? And what is that, how you say they have like this special technique and their whole like playbook? What do they do? What can we learn from that?
So basically, I remember I didn't want to speak to her, and I didn't speak to her for like that whole week after this. And school was starting as well, so it was perfect. I could just focus on school, whatever. But then, here's the thing. We all had our Snapchat Maps locations on. That was like a big thing. I don't know. So this Julie starts just showing up at places where my friends and I are. She starts showing up to public places like common rooms and stuff. And we definitely were a little weirded out. But at the same time, we didn't want to upset her or make it a big thing. And people would just immediately come to me like, are you okay with her being here? And I didn't want it to be a whole thing. I was like, it's fine. Like, as long as she doesn't speak to me. And she would show up and not speak to me. She would leave me alone and respect it. But she would make jokes, talk with my friends, be cool, make everyone laugh. And as that kept going on, I started caring less that she was there because she wasn't really bothering me. She was chill. She was funny. And as time goes on, you kind of like put sand over, you kind of forget about it. I don't know. That's just how it happened. And she just kind of became part of the group again. And slowly she would try to talk to me here and there, very slowly. And it was really just because she hung out with us a few times, maybe 4 times, where it was chill vibes, making everyone laugh, respectful to me, respectful to everyone. So that kind of makes you get used to them being around and kind of forget about it and get over it. That's really what happened. And then she starts talking to me more and more, and slowly it got back intimate. And that's the thing as well. Like, me and her, we were both really attracted to each other. So that plays a role. We would go out every week and get drunk. That plays a role. So I think one night when we all went out and got drunk, it just kind of happened. I ended up like probably getting with her and maybe going home with her. And then the next day you wake up, but it's kind of you already did it. And then she was super nice and sweet and giving me all these little kisses in the morning and telling me how beautiful I am and good morning and all these things. So then you kind of like forget about it. And this girl would cry to me about it and how much she wants to change and she hates it and she can't believe she does these things. Like, that's one thing as well. She understood how horrible she was and what kind of bad things she did. And she was openly admitting to me that she had issues and she would be abusive. So that's another thing, because she was so open to speak about it and she would cry to me about it and was so honest. It makes you think like, oh, if they understand it that well, that means they really want to work on it and they want to be better. You see the potential, and this girl is smart, fun, has so much going for her, super talented. And she's so open. Like, she's not in denial. She's not cussing me out when I bring it up. She's very understanding. So it makes me think, wow, this girl wants to change. And that's a big thing. Like, people think that abusers always manipulate and lie. And that's not true. That's the biggest misunderstanding about abusers. They're super honest and they know how horrible they are. And I truly believe that people like Julie, they really don't want to be abusive. They don't want to be a bad person. They just can't help themselves. They have certain issues. That's why I'm saying this goes beyond just someone being toxic or having anger issues. These are real mental health problems, psychological issues that you can't help them. They need professional help. No one else can help them. You can't. It's not a normal situation where you can help someone. It's just not. No. And that's the biggest thing, that these people are very aware of what they're doing, very open, and they truly want to change. They're not at all defensive about it when you bring it up or in denial. That's a big People with anger issues, they'll be defensive. But abusers, they know that something's wrong with them.
So without delving too deep into what happened and how it was for you, we'll have time, we'll talk more about this, of course. But I wanted to also for other people to understand, why was it hard for you to speak on it, even though, you had people close to you who knew, so you didn't tell us. And what now that you've unfortunately been through this, you can tell other people?
I think ways that it was hard to speak on, it's more that as they would continue to go on, I would start losing friends. That's where it starts. And it was one of those things where my friends would always be there to help me, protect me, and save me. But it got to a point where they got tired of it as well, because there was always something going on. And also they realized at some point they can't really help me. Like, I have to help myself at some point as well. Like, because they kept... And even though they stopped wanting to hear about it or be involved in it, they would still be there when something bad happened. Of course, they were still my friends, but they were kind of they didn't really know what else they could do. And it becomes a point where I would also get embarrassed. It got to a point where it was easier to not tell them and go through these things alone and just hope that she would not do anything abusive in front of people, because that way I could just kind of ignore it, no one to know, and I could just pretend everything was under control. So it gets to this point where it becomes easier not to tell people, because you don't want to keep disappointing them and you don't want to embarrass yourself. So it's very common to get in this little hole. where you just don't talk to anybody and no one gets it, no one gets the good parts, they only see the bad, so it's hard to talk to people about it. So that's one thing. And I think for me, looking back after having therapy and everything, I think definitely the way I grew up played a role into why I was more okay with being in an abusive relationship, which I don't know if I can speak on that on the podcast.
No, you can.
Yeah. But yeah, my brother, we had a lot of issues with my brother growing up. And I always would see my parents forgiving him because it's their child. What can they do? And he would always do things that were so messed up, and they would always end up forgiving him. And the forgiving would be quicker and quicker. Like at first they would be more mad, but after a certain time they could only get this mad because he kept doing things.
He was a child, yeah.
And he was a child, but that definitely internalized me into thinking that, oh, you can forgive and forget, you can help as long as they're on the right path, and you shouldn't just give up on people. So that's definitely an earlier message I got on as a kid that allowed me to stay with a person who's doing this for a lot longer. I think definitely the biggest sign everyone will tell you if someone starts losing their friends when they start dating someone, that's the biggest red flag there is. If you're losing your friends, that's definitely a sign of abuse or control or a pattern that's not healthy. No one should ever lose their friends if they're in a happy relationship. They shouldn't. And it's very hard. You can't really do anything because you can talk to to the victim and they will understand and agree. Like I would agree with everything my friends said. I knew it, but I still wouldn't do anything about it. And I would beg my friends not to do anything and please let me handle it myself. And because they cared about our friendship, they wouldn't do anything. They could have went to the school, they could have went to the police, they could have went to my parents. They had all the contact they needed. They didn't because they respected me. I'm an adult and they wanted me to do it my way. And I'm going to say something really controversial right now that a lot of people won't agree with me with. But take it from me, who's a survivor or a victim or whatever. Literally, don't listen to your friend who doesn't want help. Don't listen. You have to take legal action. That's the only thing that's going to stop it. As much as it sucks, that's the only way it's going to end. And they will beg you and cry and tell you, please don't do anything. I love this person. Don't do it. I will hate you. I won't be your friend. I won't speak to you. You have to ignore it. You have to think, I don't care. Even if they don't speak to you after, knowing that you were able to help them and protect them for their safety, that could have went really wrong. Like, I'm convinced that if I would have went on for this longer than it did, I would have gotten really hurt physically or maybe even killed. Like, I'm not being dramatic. No. It doesn't end. It only goes further and further. They keep testing boundaries. Every time you allow them to break a boundary, that's only for them a way to go to the next and the next. It's not enough. It's never enough. It doesn't end. It only gets worse.
And she even said that to you.
Mm-hmm.
You told me.
Yeah. And they don't respect you anymore because every time, if they do one thing, then the next time when they're mad, they need to do something worse because the last thing doesn't, that's like already old. It needs to get worse because that's how it works. So yeah, my biggest controversial opinion on abusive relationship, if your friend is in an abusive relationship and they open up to you about it and they tell you please don't go to anybody. I won't speak to you if you do go to somebody. If you have evidence, go to somebody. It's different when you don't have evidence. It's harder. But once you have that evidence, go to somebody, do something about it. Again, doesn't matter if they won't speak to you. Even if they don't speak to you for years, at least they're safe and protected, and eventually they will forgive you and they will understand that what you did was the right thing to do. And only take action when you have evidence. Without evidence, you can't do that because it's very dangerous, because if it's just you saying it, they're not going to take your case serious. And the most dangerous thing is if the abuser finds out there was action trying to be made, but they didn't succeed, because then the abuser will go all in. They have nothing to lose at that point. They're going to be so angry. You need to make sure that they actually get arrested. Otherwise, you can't go to a cop or anything or any kind of school or administration. Like, you need to make sure that there's enough evidence for them to actually be removed from you physically. But you can always get a restraining order. That's always a good way. But that needs to come from the victim and themselves. If you know your friend is going through abuse but you don't have evidence, start recording when you hang out. Start secretly recording things, because eventually the abuser will run out of their patience and have something. And give the victim ultimatums. Give them ultimatum being like, hey, like, you don't have to go to the cops. You know, not everybody wants legal action right away, but at least if you know they have caring parents or a job that at least gets this person fired, you need to like be like, hey, like, you need to go to your parents or I'm gonna do it. Or you can even tell your friend, I will take the blame. Like, you can tell them, hey, this is something that I recorded and I did it behind your back, and I'm gonna submit this to whoever behind your back. So you don't even have to, like, your abuser doesn't even have to know that you have anything to do with it. I will take the blame. Like, that's also a way to do it. Because as long as the abuser thinks that it wasn't the victim who did it, the victim is will be pretty safer.
I mean, like a little disclaimer, that kind of depends on the situation. Power has a lot to do with it. If we bring it back to the Cassie case, why this poor, incredible, strong woman survived this for 10 years is because he was a multimillionaire, right?
Exactly.
He had security guards, he had like a whole team, and he had guns.
Yeah.
He would even put guns in her purse so that she would also
of course.
be, you know,
that's why.
And she was afraid even for her parents.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? Because, and you know, the reason, allegedly, this is all alleged, but the reason why she could get away from him in 2018 after 11 years of this war is because one of his other girlfriends, the mother of his 3 children, died. And allegedly, people say that he might have something to do with that. But he was so distraught afterwards when that happened because, you know, it was the mother of his 3 children and maybe he didn't mean to go too far. I don't know. Allegedly. This is all alleged, my opinion. Then he was so vulnerable. So that was the moment she could leave.
Yeah.
After 11 years. So power imbalance, especially in the United States, we have to be very clear on that. That's a very big issue. But if there's, you know, you're sort of at the same, if you're sort of on the same level, and you can exert help
like,
your friends.
That case is way more extreme. And what I'm saying, I'm just giving few options, but it doesn't work for everyone. It's not always the way to fix it. It's so complicated. It has so many layers. This worked for my situation. It might not work for other situations. It's complex. Like, I'm just giving a few tips, but it really depends on the circumstance. And obviously, that's a way more intense power dynamic that I can't even imagine. And I think, 2 things that I want to end up on. Like, one, how I got out personally. At one point, it got so bad where she basically held me hostage for 3 hours, and it was a very intense situation. And thank God I had a code word with my friends, and they were able to save me. And they got her out of the room and freed me, and I was fine. But in that moment, I remember the first thing I did was I need to call my mom now. Because in that moment, you're super upset and you hate them. But if you wait even like 20 minutes, you're already over. You're already forgetting about it. They have their sad breakdown. You're worried about helping them. You feel bad for them. And you realize they're going through it more than you. That's a big thing. They're more sad than you, which makes you think, okay, it's not that bad for me. So I remember my friend was trying to calm me down and make sure I was okay and said that I should like drink some water and breathe. And I was like, no, like I have to call them now. Because if I don't do it now, if I wait 5 more minutes, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be already over it. So that's the thing too. Like, if you do want to get out of it, it sucks, but you have to wait for a moment where you're very upset, where you know now is the time. Now or never. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. So that's basically, and I knew all I said to my mom, I need you to pick me up. Something bad happened. I didn't even tell her what happened yet. But at that moment, I knew there's no way she's going to let it slide. At that point, she's going to get it out of me. There's no way I can go back now. Sometimes you have to go to the point of no return. Another thing when it comes to like coming out of it, one thing is that you will miss them a lot. You're going to miss them a lot. You're going to remember all the good things. And you're going to miss them. And you're going to feel so guilty and angry at yourself for missing them and have so many PTSD, nightmares, flashbacks. Your life is not going to be the same. And it never will be. And I think one thing is that it's okay to miss your abuser. You know, this is a person that you were actually in love with or that you actually cared for. And you actually cared for their good parts too. Even if what they felt with you was just an obsession or craziness or whatever, what you felt to them was genuine care and feelings. And that's valid. And you're okay to miss them. You shouldn't be embarrassed. You shouldn't be mad at yourself for missing them. It's normal. You're going to miss them because you care for this person. And if anything, you missing them shows that you are an amazing person because regardless of all their flaws, you were still there for them. So you should be proud that you missed them and that you felt all these amazing things. And you could still have felt very beautiful things with this person. That's totally normal because you're a good person at the end of the day. So you have to just be okay with missing them. That's part of it. And I definitely think that you need to remove yourself from things that remind you of them. Like, I had to leave where I lived because everything in that neighborhood reminded me of them. I couldn't physically walk there without getting PTSD and flashbacks. Like, I couldn't. Like, you're gonna have to remove yourself from, like, if they were always in your room, It's not always easy. Not everybody has the luxury to do that. But ideally, you change environments and locations. It's so important because if you're still living in that, those flashbacks are gonna remain. It wasn't until and they remained for me for like 6 months that I still was there. It wasn't until I fully left and fully started my life somewhere else that now I'm able to come back there sometimes. But before that, I really couldn't. And I realized after I left, you need to leave. You need a new environment. If you stay in an environment, you're never going to get over it. You're not. You're constantly going to be, because your body physically still feels that. And your body is still in danger mode. You can't get over it if you're still in the situation. So, yeah, that's a big thing.
And of course, if you have the luxury of therapy, support, emotional support, your community, your church.
But even if you don't have money, for me, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I did a lot of research, I listen to a lot of music about people who've been in abuse or did albums about their abusive partners. It helps. It really helps to learn how many people are going through it. And the biggest thing that you learn is that they're all going through the same things. Their abuse was the same things. It makes you realize you're not different, you're not special. It wasn't personal. And it sounds weird, but it's refreshing because you realize this is who they are, this is who they were always going to be. I couldn't have changed that. And it's the same for everyone, which shows they all do the same thing. It's not personal. It's not about me. I couldn't have helped them. It's this pattern. It's a pattern. Yeah. So it helps to learn about it and hear about it because it really makes you realize like, whoa, like this wasn't anything special. This is just how they are.
It's just like you said. I think that's also important about not blaming yourself. This can happen to anyone.
Literally, anyone.
The right person who has the right sort of like playbook that you are susceptible to, it can happen to anyone.
Exactly. And the thing is that once you find out that they're abusive, it's already too late. They already did something. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. So don't get embarrassed that it happened to you or feel like you're weak or less worthy because nothing can prepare you for this. You don't see the bad in people right away. Yeah. And no one could have prepared you. It could happen to anyone. No. And I always had to tell myself, I just got unlucky. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time and met the wrong person. You know? It could have happened to anyone.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I saw someone who said also about this whole Cassie and everything. And people like, yeah, well, how could... Like, listen, people are even afraid to leave their job. You know, people work with a nasty manager or somebody, a coworker.
That's what I said.
For
abuse
years,
is not
right?
just a romantic relationship.
Exactly.
It could be a boss, a friend, a cousin, a mom. It could be anyone.
Yeah, and you don't leave that job or you don't leave your apartment with like a bully neighbor or whatever, you know, an abusive neighbor. So can you imagine? So it's, don't blame yourself. And I think also as a mom, of course, I also blamed myself. And it's important to look, I looked at myself, I looked, of course, at our family dynamic, and we'll speak about that more because we have an adopted child, which really, you know, can really have an effect on a family dynamic, which it had in our case. We had to look at that, and we looked at that. But you can also not blame yourself to the point of, you know, making it about you. There's
no point in dwelling on it either. You can only think of what you did and how you were able to save them or protect them and learning for next time how to look out for it. And now at least you know, and you know it's never going to get that bad again because now you know what to look out for. That's all you can do. You can't blame yourself for what you didn't do because it already happened. You're past it now. If anything, take it as a learning experience. There's no point in dwelling on it. There really isn't.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll put links and also maybe some of your songs and tips and stuff in the show notes. We'll speak about this more. This happens, unfortunately, a lot. And we will speak about this more. But thank you so much, Lulu, for opening up, for giving this chance. And, you know, look at those red flags. And if you see, someone.
And also, guys, I know that I sound really numb when I talk about these things. But trust me, it's because I had to speak about it so many times for so many, trials and cases and interviews. I had to say these stories detail by detail so often that at this point, I'm desensitized and I'm, dissociated from the story. At this point, it feels like a play or a script I learned because of how many times I had to say it. So that's the only reason I sound so, numb. In the past, I couldn't even speak on this, or I would cry before even saying a word. So, yeah.
So proud of you. So proud of you. Love you. Mwah. I love you. I love me. We love y'all. And thank you so much.